Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Three Men in a Football. All right, Daz, all right, Tom?
Right, Tom.
How you doing, guys? How's it going?
Been a while.
We're all right, guys. You all of a sudden become American.
Yo, guys.
They all say it in our house. The kids say it in our house because they're all YouTubed up to death, aren't they?
You having a good weekend?
I was yesterday in the sun, but today's been grim.
I just got to apologise. I went out and bought a lounger yesterday, so apologies for the clouds over Liverpool today.
Yeah, all your fault, that's. All right, so we're going to see if we can crack out another decent episode today, and we've got a couple of topics, but I'll start as normal. So just for those who are regular listeners or those who are listening to us or finding us for the first time on YouTube or on any of the other platforms, you can find us everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Network, at the website at www.threemeninfootball.com, or you can come back to YouTube and listen to us on a regular basis. We're also posting Thomas's new section as well, which he'll be doing another one later today, which we can't wait for. That's rave reviews, Tom.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Don't forget to tell us what you think about what we're doing as well. We've had some really good feedback so far, and we're going to go through a bit of them now. Go on, Daz.
I was going to say, Thomas is the best bit of the show. But there's, he's becoming a star, I think, and I think we've got to rein him in now and again, Si. So
his head's massive, isn't it?
That's just
the fallen that way. You told me to zoom in before.
We weren't talking about your head, mate. All right, so let's get to the comments. This is a really good section each week because we get to get some feedback from people who are watching and listening. So a lot of the feedback in this one is related to the teams that we picked. And I don't know whether you two have checked, but I'm winning so far. I'm just putting it out there. We've had some good comments about other people's teams, but Thomas has been absolutely nailed for his tactics. No goalie has just been hammered. So let me just go through some of the comments and then we'll see where we go. So the first one is, my side would be Paul Cooper, 70s, 80s Ipswich. I don't know who that is.
I remember Paul Cooper slightly, but he played in goal, but there was better goalkeepers than that.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, you had Neville Southall.
To be fair, Si, his brother used to own a jean shop. Lee, lovely fella.
Van Dijk, Best, Cruyff, Suarez, Gerd Muller, and Jan Molby. And that was from Neil Holden. I think that was a decent team, but I mean, certainly not in the realms of the quality that we showed. Well, me and Daz anyway. Comment number 2 is best episode so far. I don't give a penny for Thomas's team. He just ruined the basis for football. I will go with Daz's team. Seems the most balanced. My team would be Chilavert, Cafu, Totti, Hazard, Eusebio, Cantona, and Kante.
That Eusebio is a great shout.
Yeah, that was from Matthew Beshu, who's a regular watcher and listener. But that's hilarious that he's giving you no love there, Tom.
Listen, what he doesn't realise is I'm a revolutionary. I'm changing the way five-side football is going to be played in the future.
Well, I mean, let's just see what your number one fan thoughts of what you put up on the team.
Oh, is he been commenting?
He has, yeah. So another great episode, lads. Canal Thomas. Throw us a bone here, mate. How am I meant to defend you when you're throwing out shouts like no goalie and a five-a-side? Your team would smash it with a decent keeper. Mine would be Edison, Iniesta, Pirlo, JJ Okocha, which was a good shout, and Del Piero. And that was from Baby Pirlo, otherwise known as Thomas's one fan from Kirby, Dan.
Dan the one fan.
Just telling you, mate. Just
say on that side, that JJ Okocha is a great shout.
Oh, mate, I watched some highlights of him. In fact, it was match of the day last night, and they were showing highlights of me. He was unbelievable on the ball. Yeah,
and it was at the time though when these stars were coming over to England, and we're like, "Who's this guy?" You know, he's done this, and this with reputations. He won't be able to do in the Prem, and he did. He was brilliant.
Well, they were talking about the best players outside of the top 6, and I thought he was a cracker. We got
he doesn't get near to my Ronaldinho, does he?
Well, no, but to be fair, you had no keeper, so you were getting beat already. So comment number 4, brilliant that, Thomas. You've talked absolute nonsense for the most of these, but that was great. And that was from Ian Deacon. And that was after your Thomas's
Thanks,
Wall
Steve.
of Fate last week. Oh, that's brilliant. Perfect time. And he's paused. He's got no video.
That's all we need.
Just me and you, Daz. We lost you, Tom. It was brilliant. Yeah, that was from Ian Deacon. Okay, and then the last one, the last team. Oh no, actually, you've got two more here because this is a classic as well. So the next one come from Andy McFarlane, and his team would be Zola, David Silva, Steve Nicol, Gary Speed, Fowler, and Allison and Trent with his 7.
Steve Nicol.
Steve Nicol.
Has he been to the Thomas Morris School of Coaching?
Well, he's a Liverpool fan as well, so.
Oh, say no more.
But he also said, which was hilarious, he said, if we don't need him, Allison can be replaced by Molby. It's such a random thing, Allison for Molby.
Thomas, it started, mate. No goalies. It started.
Okay, so then we got some shout-outs as well for people who have been commenting and watching, and actually people who Darren bumped into in the street. Rochi, giving us great feedback all the time. Danny Costello, who is constantly chasing me to put the next one up, which is great. And Neil Holden as well, who got a mention earlier. And then 2 of my personal favourites, Adam and Andy Scragg. And you'll remember Andy Scragg, Darren, he used to referee us.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And Adam as well. Young Adam used to come and watch us. Well,
yes.
Young Adam now is taller than me.
6'2", isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. And him and his dad both watch it.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
So, yeah,
that was the days, though, when I used to run sites. So, it's going back a few years, that.
A long time ago, that. I can't even remember that. All right, so Tom, what are we going to talk about this week? Brilliant.
Again, brilliant. He's got dial-up. He has got dial-up internet.
So welcome back to the second half of 3 Men in a Football, episode 6. We've asked Thomas to move from his 1980s dial-up connection to a modern, fandangled broadband connection. And as you'll see, there's a little bit of a difference to his background.
We had to introduce Wi-Fi to him. He got all confused at one point.
It's so like, as I said, it's like doing FaceTime with my dad.
Sorry about the technical problem.
In a minute, we'll just be able to see just Tom top of Thomas's head.
When the computer falls off the ironing board and we just see under his bed.
Oh, you don't want to see under there.
Yeah. All right, Tom. So this week, what's this week's topic? What are we going to talk about this week?
Well, to start off with, we're just going to give a bit of an update on the restart of football across Europe, England. Things have changed slightly, and we've just listened to the Prime Minister's message. See whether that makes any difference to what we talked about last week.
And are you suitably enthused about the steps that were taken out of the lockdown?
No, I think they were useless, if I'm being honest. Absolute waste of time.
Could that have been any more disappointing?
For me, as a teacher, I found it really disappointing that he actually didn't take any notice of anyone who's talking to him or his party. I don't want to get on a political rant because I need my own podcast. But I do think a lot of parents, a lot of teachers, a lot of people who work in school are going to be disappointed that he's sending the most vulnerable children in first.
It was ambiguous as well, though, wasn't it? You can go to the park, and then he said you can play sports, and then realised what he'd said, and then said only with your members of your own household.
Which is lucky because everyone who plays Liverpool is like one big family, Tom. I think you'll tell us this.
All right, so let's get off how disappointed we are about Boris Johnson's speech where he does that all the time, which winds me up. So what's the latest with the leagues around Europe, Tom?
So basically, I know that Liverpool are going back to training next week, even though it hasn't been, nothing's gone out official. A lot of the teams have started to do social distance training, working from their own training camps, bases right across the country. Germany, Spain, Italy, they're all back in full training, group training sessions, slightly social distance, ready for the season to kick off. So I think we're not far off from football coming back, if I'm being honest.
But I think part of the challenge, though, is, so, I mean, the Bundesliga is probably the one that's had the most press because you had the French league getting ended and then the French lead given every other European league crap about the fact that they were continuing. Bundesliga then decides to restart on the 16th, but then apparently 2 players have tested positive for Dynamo Dresden, and the whole team has gone into isolation for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And although I think they're the bottom of like the 2nd division or something.
That's right.
But that's got to be a bad sign.
I think what that does show you is how quick things can escalate. And I noticed today, Brighton players, there's 3 Brighton players who have either contracted or are in isolation. That's going to have a knock-on effect to all of Brighton. There's talk of 2 Villa players possibly having some symptoms. And I think the danger is, from what Big Bad Boris has just said, we still have to maintain this 2 meters.
Well, you can't do that in football.
Now, to be fair, most of the teams in the Premier League manage that quite well. But I do think it again comes down to a bigger issue than football. So here's one I want to throw in the pot. I want your opinion on. So the Premier League seems to be a definite end. We want it to end by the end of June or middle of July. That's what the Premier League seems to be saying.
Yeah. Is
that because of the implications continuing or keeping the Premier League till September, October has on European football and the money that would generate? Would our clubs, if we didn't start the season till September again, restart it, would that have massive financial implications on European football for those top 5 or 6 clubs?
Well, I don't think it's that. I think that plays a part, but I don't think that is what drives all the money. I think there's a lot of money for the clubs related to Europe, but a lot of the TV money I think would be an issue as well, because if you run the league until September, what happens with next year? And then there's contracts as well with the amount of games that are on TV and commitments there. I think that's where the biggest problem is. There's so much money around televising the games that to then push that out, you're going to push out the start of next year, which then pushes back that contract. And all of that will have been baked into earnings for 2020.
So I'm going to throw something into Thomas here. Thomas, obviously Liverpool will win the league. Say we didn't continue the league till September, October, and Liverpool weren't allowed in Europe for that year because the European competition already started, how would that make you feel as a Liverpool fan? I think we all know he's a Liverpool fan. So how would that...
Maybe.
Well, I don't think it's going to come to that, Darren. So from what I've read and what I've seen...
That wasn't the question. The question was, if it came to September and we had to start the league in September for 4 weeks, European clubs have already started the European competition. How would that... Liverpool can't go into European competition this year. How would the fans react?
As long as Liverpool win the league, I think they wouldn't mind. But I certainly wouldn't mind on a one-off basis to get that Premiership won and that monkey off our back. I think that's the most important thing. I think you ask any Liverpool fan going into the season, they didn't care what happened to any other competition as long as we got the monkey off the back and got that league title won for the first time in 30 years. So hopefully that answered your question, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I'll give you the view of another Liverpool fan. I don't think that's... Well, again, I agree with Thomas that I don't think that's going to happen. But I wouldn't be happy about that. I think there's a couple of ways to look at this, isn't there? So if you isolate just the Premiership, which is the Premier League, which is just the thing that we're focused on today, then it's all about that. Who cares about Europe? Because Europe seems a long way away for us now that we're out of it. But next year, the amount of money that brings in for the club alone, think about how hard people fight to get into the positions to be in the Champions League. It's massive for every club. And I know we're not struggling for money at Liverpool, although you would think that some of the decisions, maybe we are. I just think that would have a massive impact. It'd limit their ability to sign new players. We're going to have to bring new players in. There are players that we're going to have to cycle out, and we're going to have to bring new players in. Where does that money come from? And I just think then we might get into a situation where we can't spend.
And I'm just going to throw something else out there for you guys to think about. So there's a report coming out of Japan that says you are at risk 18 times greater in the outdoors than you are indoors.
From what? Bear attacks?
From the coronavirus.
Okay, make it clear, Darren.
Sorry, mate. I presume we were talking about the coronavirus, so that's why I went on that line of question. But it's saying, and you know, again, we don't know how true this is, but there is a report saying you're 18 times greater at risk of the coronavirus outdoors than you are indoors.
Which is funny because our scientists in the UK are saying the total opposite. They're saying you can go out and exercise. One of the messages today was you can go out and exercise more
all day.
There's less risk when you're outdoors as long as you're social distancing.
And I think that's where we're all at. We're all getting different stories, different facts from all over the world.
All right, Daz, I've got one for you then, seeing as you keep throwing the questions out here.
Go on then.
So I read today that Watford, Brighton and Aston Villa are opposing neutral venues.
Yeah.
And then I read something really funny about how Brighton have changed their perspective over the space of like 20 days since things have changed. And now a couple of people at Brighton have tested positive. So how do you feel about the neutral venues?
As a footballer, don't really care. I think a pitch is a pitch to a point. I think as a supporter of Villa, you want to do everything in your power to protect us get relegated. And that's the bottom line. Every club in the Premier League has their own interest at heart. Anyone who says they don't, in my opinion, are lying.
Yeah. So
Villa, Brighton, Watford, and the other 3 or 4 who have been touted to reject this move are all trying to defend their right to stay in the Premier League. Listen, I'm under no illusion. Villa haven't been good enough this year. That's why we're down there. The table doesn't lie.
Yeah.
However, with 10 games to go, we still have a chance of staying up. And you're going to do everything in your power to try and stay up, whether that means you play all your games at home or whatever. You're going to try and get an advantage.
Yeah, I do wonder what this whole neutral ground thing. If you're going to make it safe for 300 people at a neutral ground, why can't you make it safe at your own ground? I don't really get that. But then I guess the knock-on effect is what they're trying to avoid, which is fans coming to the ground and then gathering around the ground. So I get that bit, but actually the 300 people that are involved, if you make them safe in one stadium, you can make them safe in another.
That's right.
I think for me, what we've got to be very careful of is also putting clubs out to dry in the media.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I think it's easy for media and ex-pundits like ourselves, ex-players who are pundits, sorry, like ourselves, to almost blast clubs for doing that. It's a money-oriented game.
Yeah, but they're saying as well, aren't they, that only 14 of the 20 clubs have to vote to continue for it to carry on. So there's 3 clubs that have come out and gone against it. Watford, Brighton and Aston Villa have openly gone against it, and others have talked about it as well. But only 14 of them have to vote. The vote happens, I think, is it Monday?
Yeah, there's talk
tomorrow?
On Monday again. There's more talk on Monday.
Or the conversation tomorrow, and then there's a vote at some stage. They haven't confirmed when that's going to be.
Well, they're looking for the actual published the records that Boris Johnson's releasing tomorrow to say, to go into more detail of who can go out, what businesses he's really pushing to start, to open. But just going back to Darren's point, or Simon's point, it was Christian Perslow. I think he had quite a lot of guts, really, to come out and say, because he's openly said, why are we going to put ourselves at risk? Why are we going to put ourselves at risk of being relegated if, going to neutral grounds when we've got most of our points at home? He said, we don't want to give that advantage up. And, fair dues to him. It's a lot of money to lose. And how long have Villa been out the big time and the big show to then come back in, have a little taste of it, to go down again? You want to fight tooth and nail to stay in there, don't they?
Of course you do. And I just think on that, Thomas, I think, Villa, Watford and Brighton, their chairman or their spokespeople have been brave coming out and saying that.
Definitely,
yeah.
Massively brave, because it's all right for the middle of the table clubs. They've got nothing to lose. They're not getting Europe. They're not getting relegated. They're fine. But to come out and make a stand is massive. It is getting a lot of flack from a lot of people. Of course you do.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you've got to put your head above it, haven't you?
Do you know what? It's happening both ways, though, isn't it? You've got Liverpool fans who are, as Thomas is, right behind us restarting it. And then you're getting crap. The Liverpool fans are getting crap because they want the league to carry on. Well, don't be surprised that Liverpool fans want the league to carry on and supporters from other clubs don't want it to carry on. That's just natural. That's just the way it is.
It's almost, lads, a non-argument.
Exactly. I say that all the time. It's a pointless argument.
Yeah.
All right. Just saying that it's a non-argument, why don't we bring this to a close by getting everyone's views? Has anything changed about how everyone feels since last time we talked about it? Daz?
Thomas? Oh, me first. Okay. So for me, I can't see them being safe in June when they try and open it. I would rather them wait a bit longer, but that has implications on financial issues for the Premier League.
Yeah.
Thomas?
I think it's going to start, whether we want it or not, even though I do want it to happen. It will happen sometime in June, probably later in June than I was expecting, because they're talking about the 12th of June at the moment. I think it'll be a bit later, because what they'll do is they will look at these leagues starting in other countries. Germany is starting next Saturday, and Italy, who have been decimated with the coronavirus, they're looking to start on the 29th of this month or the weekend after. So they've already got dates set, and they've had cases pop up this week, both countries. So I think our country will look at it and go, let's see how they're getting on. What are they doing right? What did they do wrong? So we put it back 2 weeks and make sure we follow this criteria that's working in them countries now. So it's definitely going to happen. And I just think they should just delay the start and put no start date for the next season.
Yeah.
Let it run its course.
I think I'm on the same page. I think it'd be really difficult to buy into them keeping it safe in like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks time. I just can't see that happening. And the dates that they're talking about is the 8th or the 12th of June. I agree with you, Thomas. I don't think it'll happen then. I think it'll be further into June. You might get to the middle of the month. But then they're going to have to really cram it in. They're going to have to do it quickly. They're going to have to do the games tight together. But I think if they do that, then they can get it done. But they should only do it if they can do it safely. And I think part of that is watching, to your point, Thomas, watching what goes on elsewhere, learning from mistakes that people make elsewhere, and then making sure you don't make the same mistakes. Another sport that me and Thomas love dearly is mixed martial arts, and the UFC started again last night and had their first event. And just before that event, one of the fighters and 2 people from their camp actually tested positive. Problem is they've been in a hotel with all those fighters. Now you've got a situation where potentially you've exposed everyone that's been around those 3 people. So I just think there are, no matter how contained you think it is, it's got no barriers, it's got no boundaries, it's going to do what it wants to do. And because it's an airborne virus, you've got a bit of a problem. So, all right, so let's, I think we'll come back to that as well, because as things go on over the next couple of weeks, it becomes more and more of a hot topic. So let's talk about it on an ongoing basis and see where we go with it. But Daz, you've got another topic that you wanted to talk about today, which is really close to your heart, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's money. No, only messing. It's yeah, it's to do with youth football. It's to do with the grassroots youth football and academies, really. And a couple of things that over the years, is I've seen a lot of youth football. I was involved with youth football for a while at county level, managing Kirby boys, and I want to get away from academies almost overcoaching children from a young age. And I think I also want to come away from academies being able to get players till they go to secondary school. Certainly in our day, when we played, that happened. You know, we didn't know of anybody until probably first year senior school when people got picked up. And I'd like to propose something to the lads here about my thoughts on the youth game for under 6s to probably under 10s. I'd be an advocate of having 2 referees. I'd have a system in place, and I'll tell you my reasoning in a minute, where we have each team starts off with 3 passes, and they have to have 3 passes before they score. Once they get a goal, that goes to 4 passes. If they get another goal, it goes to 5 passes. Because what that actually does, it gets them to play the game the right way. Certainly when I was growing up, I was a little chubby kid. I played at the back no matter what, because I could kick it the furthest. And it almost neglects that way. And I think one referee could be there to count the passes, one referee there to referee the game. And coaches then would have a purpose to coach and not just rely on the quick players, not to rely on the big boot, and come away from parents at the school gate saying, oh, my little Johnny won 12-0 at the weekend. Who's getting anything out of that game?
Yeah.
No one.
But so what you're talking about is the youth game there. You're talking about the youth game outside of the academy in general. So a system to apply across the board. Firstly, 6-year-olds playing football, they should kick a ball around. They should have it shouldn't be competitive. It should just be them playing with the ball. Because the reality is at 6, basically what they do is just follow the ball. It's almost pointless having any kind of organisation. But part of the challenge is the progression out of kicking the ball around on the field with your mates to playing for a club to then going to an academy. And I think what started happening is anyone that shows any kind of ability to play football at a very young age, you're talking 5, 6, 7 years old, is they're getting picked up and taken to a club. Now, when we were growing up, that as you said, that didn't happen. People were getting picked up 11, 12, generally 13, 14 before, when you start to mature a little bit, you grow into your body a bit and they can see what they're getting. You go to things like Liverpool schoolboys, and maybe that is the first step from the school and club level. And then you get spotted. Same way that Robbie Fowler did, same way that Tony Grant did, same way that your mate Warner did.
Yeah.
There was a system there and it worked. Part of the problem with that system is that players just slip through the net, and we've all played with great players who you think have no idea how they didn't make it.
Yeah.
And they didn't make it because the system was not quite right. But now what we've done is it's gone totally the other way, where we're pushing people into an environment where they're expected to perform. It's competitive. The parents are the worst part of it. And then you end up with people when they get to 16, when they get let go, because thousands of kids get let go every year. They just go into a free fall and they have terrible problems with mental health. That can't be a healthy system.
Thomas?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think youth football, having watched it on the likes of the Bill Shankly and the Walkers playing field, is, to be honest, it's not the way it used to be. Teams they just don't play the game properly, like you're saying, Darren. And also, the numbers are dwindling massively. So you're seeing 5 or 6 pitches empty and not being filled. And I'm thinking, you can't go and watch a game now and say, oh, there's 5 outstanding lads on 3 pitches under 14, because they're all playing in this academy or this school or for this specialist club that you're not allowed to play for anyone else. So then all you've got is a gang of lads that aren't very good running around, just booting the ball, and they're not getting any better, playing against lads who are not very good, just hoofing the ball around, not getting any better. I think, you've got to look at you've got to look at the bigger picture and try and improve things.
So for me, I think what we need to do, we're in a point now where actually the academies can revolutionise football and revolutionise what they do. And so what I'd be tempted to do is an academy, whether it be Liverpool or Everton, affiliates themselves to leagues, youth football leagues. And what they do is they, each team gets so many weeks training off the academies. And they do it in wherever they bring them in or whatever they want to do it, however they want to do it, logistics. But what that does is it keeps the game fun. It keeps the players playing with the mates, and they're not taken away for 6 weeks to put into a factory that doesn't work. And then 6 weeks later, they've got to bring back the head between the tail and say, actually, I'm not at Liverpool anymore, or I'm not at Everton anymore, or I'm not at any other academy anymore. And then the academy scouts and coaches give the parents this almost crap story about, we're going to keep an eye on him. No, you're not, because you've got him in and you've thought he was crap because he stood out as an average player with players who aren't very good. Yeah. And we're almost sucking the fun out the game at a young age. And so we play with players who went on to have good careers in the game at different levels. And I think the academies, while I'm on my rant, I think the academies have got a responsibility at letting kids go at 16 years of age to help them find a club. Because actually, why we're losing a lot of players in the adult game, because we all still play the adult game, is because they've been turned off from that disappointment. And we're building these players up in academies from the age of 6 to be the next Stevie Gerrard, to be the next Wayne Rooney, to be the next Trent. When actually, we've got to start telling people who are honest, and we've got to start saying, well, actually, you know what, they're good. We're not sure that they're at this level. We're going to help you find a club lower down. Yeah. But that doesn't happen. They get dropped, or that their agent tells them some cock and bull story about how this other team wants them. Yeah. And it's an absolute, for me, I'm working with 1 or 2 people at the moment who've come out of that academy system. And the mental well-being of these players I work with is phenomenal. They wanted to give up football at one point. And I think we have to remember that yeah, you're letting a kid go at 16, but it's more than that you're letting go.
Well,
Sorry,
that's I think that's a really good point that you just made. The mental health of these kids, and they are kids. They're 16. I've got a 14-year-old that can't imagine him in 2 years' time having to deal with that kind of rejection. They deal with this kind of social stuff every day, but that is serious rejection, especially when you've been built up so much. And I found something today. Teesside University did a study in 2015, and 55% of players in the study were suffering from clinical level of psychological distress 21 days after being released. That's not surprising that people are depressed, but that's clinical depression.
Yes.
55% of the players. Now, we all, being from Liverpool, being from a football city, we all know people who've been through this kind of process. We all know people who've had this kind of distress. I'll tell you my bit, and you both know this, but for everyone else, I went to the schoolboys when I can't remember whether I was 12 or 13, and I was a goalkeeper. And I was relatively short, but I was a decent goalkeeper. And I went and I did quite well in the trials. My dad and my brother come and watch me. Funnily enough, our Nathan come and watch me, Thomas. I don't know why. Stood on the lines. My dad couldn't have been prouder because I did really well, but I was shorter than all the other goalkeepers. And I didn't make it. And I remember how bad I had players from my school. There was 3 of us who went. And the other 2 was Robbie Fowler and a lad called Paul Langley. And they both obviously made it into the schoolboys and I didn't. And I remember the shame of going into school the following week and having to have that conversation. And then you go on and, you know, similar to you, Daz, you know, you go through youth football, you get scouts coming, you have conversations, you do some trials. I was never really that bothered about them. I don't know why. Because look back now and think I probably should have been more bothered. And then I always, right through until I was probably 21, thought I was going to be a footballer. I was convinced that I was going to play football at some kind of level. And then I got the opportunity to go and play in New Zealand. And I shifted everything, went to New Zealand, left the now wife here, and absolutely hated it. Come home, reneged on my contract, come home, come back to the UK. Didn't kick a ball for 2 years because I just had enough. Yeah. I hated it that much. I was 21 years old. Yeah. But all of a sudden, I just realised that I wasn't going to be a footballer because I wasn't good enough. I was a decent amateur footballer, and I probably could have played at the lower levels if I'd have really, really pushed myself. And I didn't have the drive, didn't have the same kind of commitment that I would have now. And I wish I could get hold of myself back then now and say, you know, try harder, work harder, you know, commit a bit more.
Grow quicker.
Grow quicker. Oh, I had opportunities in my 20s because I was doing pretty well, but I just didn't take them. And you think about the rejection that you feel. I felt at that age, and I know what that felt like, and it was horrible. I remember having to write my dad a letter from New Zealand saying, I want to come home. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't like it. I don't like the football. I don't like being away from family. I really struggled mentally. But I remember just feeling horrific about the fact that I had to come home and I had to face everything. And then I had to tell everyone. So, you know, people asking you a question like, well, why are you home? Well, it didn't quite work out. I didn't like it. And actually, I'd done all right in the first couple of games. I'd scored a couple of goals. I was doing okay. I just hated it. Yeah. But the mental pressure then, imagine that at 16, when you've been built up for years.
And I think as well, Si, I think what you've just summed up there is the peer pressure. So you might have grown up with these lads in the academy from 5 or 6, got a decent team together. And at 16, 2 of you get kept on. And I know you can't keep the whole team on because that's just not practical. However, I think there should be, at 16, you almost get a year's notice that you will be asked to look for other clubs. And you have a year of still training, of still working hard. And then within that year, the academy or whoever has to get you a number of trials with local clubs or clubs. So say 6, which isn't, you know, they've got contacts everywhere. And I think after that year or within those 6 trials or something, you're then given players a hope, because what happens is you've built these families up and you've built these kids up since 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that they're going to be the next big thing. The reality of it is there's a small percentage you actually are.
Tom, what do you think the clubs? So we play for South Liverpool, a great local amateur team that are trying to take a step up. What part do you think clubs like that could play in getting these players and getting them back into football, because they totally lose heart?
Well, the biggest thing for me of a weekend is just the love of football. So I think you get that back. And I know us three are just on here chatting about football and they're just our amateur opinions of what, goes on day to day. But I love football. I absolutely love everything about it. I love the build up to it. I love the phone calls with with Darren. Who do you think is going to turn up this week? Are we going to have enough?
No.
What type of team can we put out? The opposition. What's the strong points? Just the absolute love of football and giving that back to them, and also having a caring, loving, fun-loving club that you're playing for, where the pressure's on. Just go out and play, enjoy yourself, and if we win, great.
Yeah.
At our level anyway. And then the first team, it's a bit more serious. It's a lot more serious. They're going to go into step 7, and they're pushing for promotion. They're unbeaten this year, and every game's a massive game for them. They're just the joy of that for them. Someone dropping down from an academy to get involved in that and get involved in camaraderie with the lads, the social side of it, where the pressure is lifted, would be massive. But I've just got very quickly, I've got a list here, Darren, of up to Christmas, every team in the Premiership, how many players have played this season that have come from their academy.
I love stats, Tom. You've done well here. Go on.
Do you want me to just run through them quickly?
Yeah.
So Bournemouth didn't have no players from an academy playing for them up to Christmas.
That surprises me. That really surprises me.
Well, I was really shocked because I thought all the poorer teams would have more from the youth. Watford, Wolves had 1. Sheffield United had 2. Man City had 3. Everton had 1. Villa, 2. Crystal Palace, 1. Liverpool, 1. Liverpool only had Trent from the academy.
Yeah.
Playing up to Christmas. Arsenal had 5, which was one of the bigger ones. Maitland-Niles, Bellerin, Nielsen, Sacco and Willock. Burnley had 2. Southampton had 3. Newcastle had 4. West Ham had 2. Leicester 3. Brighton 3. Spurs 5. Norwich 3. Now, the 2 big ones, I wasn't surprised at Chelsea because they had a transfer ban and they brought a load in from the academy. Chelsea had 7.
Wow.
But the biggest is going to shock you. Man United.
Well, no, because they've been crap.
Yeah, so they've promoted.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of them have been fleeting performances by, youth sides or people have brought in. But 11
but
up to Christmas.
But I think that's so United have really struggled and are having to rebuild. So what they're doing is they're bringing them young lads in to give them an opportunity. Well, that's the right thing to do. Sure.
Yeah. Just on that, though, I do think we have to be careful as well with those stats as how many were actually in the academy at a young age and not just being brought over at 16.
Yeah.
Because the European law is slightly different. Thomas, I just want to pick up a point that you were saying about where the lads go when they finish academy at 16. We're very lucky, I think, in Liverpool. And I want to give a shout out to Davy McDiarmid and John McGrattan, who run, I think it's the football college or something down at not far from us, who actually pick up a lot of these lads and give them an education, a football education in their college. And I know Stevie G's involved as an ambassador in some description. And I think you find more and more of these colleges creeping up all over the country. That's great. Is it a failure of the academy system?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it is, because those players are being left out on a limb and are not being supported. You've got Robbie Fowler's got one called FEFA, which has been going for years, and they've actually got players into professional contracts. And he's done a great job with his setup because they're being educated while they're doing it as well. Similar to what John McGrattan's doing. Fowler's done on a bit of a bigger scale. I know Gerrard has been involved in it and a couple of others. He's done really, really well. But he's funded that himself.
Yeah. Shall I tell you who started this many, many years ago? Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah, I seen that. It was brilliant.
I was just going to say that then. He had the first one, didn't he?
Yeah. So he took a lot of lads over to European countries.
Yeah.
To play and train with these sides who are not quite, the Spanish top league. But he saw there was a niche market there. And like said Davy Mack, who, by the way, was a really good player.
Yeah.
He's got something there that he knew there was a need for it. And I think the academies have a lot to answer for 16-year-olds, in my opinion.
But Daz, what are we doing different here than they're doing in places like Europe? So think of Spain, right? Think of what's happened with Barcelona. Think about how people rave about their youth system and the way they bring their kids through the academy. What's different? Do we know?
Not the top of my head, but what I probably would say is I think we overcoach kids in this country. I think when you look at the cost of our coaching badges compared to Germany, I think it's ridiculous, because in Germany, I think it costs something like €200 or €300 or something. And over here, it's £500, £600, £700 for a certain level.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the thousands.
That's
I think it's more difficult to look at a young age. Children get into bad habits because they're getting told different things by different people because they're kids. Let them play, just let them play, and they're almost trying to please parents rather than enjoying the game.
Yeah.
You know, I work in a school. There's been instances in schools where I've seen the children constantly look at their parents to see if they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And there's something that's natural about that. But then what I think you do find is, and I found this, is when you have a manager or a coach who you trust and who you respect, then what tends to happen is you divert that kid's attention to the coach or the manager. But I think there's two sides to that as well. The coach and the parents have got to play a part in that. So the coach has got to be organised, has got to be systematic in their approach, has got to relate to the kids, has got to let them play, and has got to communicate at all levels. So communicate with the kids, communicate with the parents. But then parents have a massive responsibility, because then that coach has those kids for maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a week. Yeah. And then they're with the parents all the rest of the time, and their parents are in their ear about what they should and shouldn't be doing. And then every time the coach gets them, they have to restart.
Yeah.
That's where it fails. I think that's where the coaching piece fails. If you don't have the support of the parents, you can't make it work.
Here's one for you, Thomas. I want to throw this into you. So this week or last week, Bayern Munich, I think, have come out and said they're scrapping their academy for 9 and 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's brilliant because they want kids to play different sports. Yeah. Thomas, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think I like the old system that we used to have. It could be refined with the schoolboys system. It could be refined so we don't let as many kids slip through the net as they did then. But I know of a guy that has took his kid to, he's a goalkeeper. He was about 10 at the time. I used to work with him. He played for Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Everton, Bolton, Blackburn, and I've probably missed a couple. He signed forms with them, all them teams, and they got rid of him after so many weeks. Then they brought him back again. We need another look at you. And all that would happen was the lad that they had in the team had got injured and they needed some cover. Yeah. And he used to go and get the strip, get the kit, go and do a bit. And he was a cracking little goalie. You know, he's 10. He was know that he could go on to be a worldie. I don't know. But, you know, to be playing for that, and that was all in 12 months. That was in 12 months, all them teams. So I don't think it's fair. Like we were saying before, it's not fair on the kids. Let them go and play. Let them play football with their mates. Let them go and enjoy it. I think the pressure on them at that age, unless you've got an absolute star that you know is going to, you know, has got every chance of making it up to become, you know, the next Robbie Fowler, the next Rashford, Harry Kane, then they maybe need more support, and the likes of academies and the clubs keep them and build them over the future. But how do you know that at 10 and 8? Yeah.
But just on that, Tom, we all know players when we were in primary school were brilliant.
Yeah.
Got to secondary school and they were awful.
Yeah.
And because children grow at different rates, their ability changes at different rates, their understanding of the game changes at different rates, you know, and it'd be interesting to see how many children at 6 years of age at an academy make it to professional football.
Yeah, it's such a small percentage.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is give the game back to the kids.
Yeah.
That's my big message. Give it back to the kids and let them play. Then in year 6, they go to schoolboys and let them play schoolboys, because that's a different level again from Saturday football or Sunday football.
Yeah. Also,
then after schoolboys, after schoolboys, going into your first year of senior school, that's when the academies can come and have a look at them.
Yeah, but and even when we were growing up, when players got too good, or when they were starting to get looked at by clubs, I'll use Fowler and name drop him on a regular basis.
Are you getting paid by the Fowler drop-ins?
Mate, I remember playing for the school, and scouts were there all the time because they were just watching him. And then eventually, he was getting introduced to Liverpool. He was playing for the schoolboys, and it was clear that he was going to sign for Liverpool. And then he didn't play for our school anymore.
Yeah,
because he couldn't, because he had to go and be associated with the club, and he was training with the club and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, I played with him, and I played with another lad I mentioned earlier, Paul Langley. And I think out of the two of them, I mean, they were both amazing footballers.
This is going to be a controversial side, not on the podcast, son. We don't want to lose listeners.
We don't want to lose Fowler.
I thought in school, Paul Langley was a better footballer because Fowler was an out-and-out striker, and he just scored goals for fun, whereas Paul Langley was a little bit different. He had much more about him, had much more ability on the ball, and played more in midfield or just behind the forward. So he was involved in the game more, and he was more involved in the team, and I got on with him really well as well. But he was brilliant. Now, he had a bad accident, I think, or a bad injury when he was about 16, 17. Never went pro, played semi-pro for years, played for top amateur clubs around Liverpool, but never ever went professional. That again, that baffled me. He was absolutely amazing. I went to a school which was filled with brilliant footballers, and those two were head and shoulders above anyone else.
Yeah. Same with me. I went to a school, local comp, and football was brilliant because that's what everyone did. Yeah. We were allowed just to play. And just touching on that, next you would tell me Mark Viduka is better than Fowler.
Well, so Andy Wolfoot, my mate from California, who was up late watching the YouTube on, I think it must have been Saturday morning for me, Friday night for him. And he texted me and he said, are you getting any sponsorships for this podcast? Because I'll pay you £20 to say Mark Viduka is better than Robbie Fowler.
So, Thomas, that's £20 of salt. Go to Tesco's now, get your club card points.
Yeah, he's a good
one. Do you know what something that I've always thought about when we're talking about youth football? It runs like school years, doesn't it? You're in that age bracket. Yeah. Now, some kids' birthdays are in the first week you start the year, and they're nearly a full 12 months older than some of the kids whose birthdays are later in the school year. And like we know with all kids, they grow and age differently. Everyone's different. And I think the way they look at school ages for playing football, I don't think it's very fair until everyone's gone through puberty and they've started to grow and got to where, the body starts to fill out. And I think people are lost through the net because of that as well.
I think, Tom, you're always going to get that no matter what. So either in school, if they're an August birthday, they're generally a year or so behind. I think just touching on what Simon was saying before about players we played with in schools, there was lads I knew in schools who were absolutely superb players. Absolutely. I mean, there was a lad called Paul Kane, and he lived by me, and Paul Kane was an amazing footballer. Did he have the drive to want to play at a higher level?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But he could have, because he was exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. Yeah. And I just think we want to see in academies, they almost want to see that finished article at 11. And the truth is that the players won't develop properly till around about 14 or 15, in my opinion. And I think we have to almost take risks on when they get to secondary school, those raw nuggets that we find.
Yeah.
And those raw nuggets that tell you, oh, there's something about him I like. There's something that I want to get involved, and I want to make sure that we can give him the best we can give him.
Yeah. Well, will you ever see like an Ian Wright who got picked up at 25 playing on Hackney Marshes ever again?
Ian won't.
A Jamie Vardy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie Vardy is the most recent one, and now he's one of the best strikers in the Premiership. He was picked up at, I think he was playing lower league. He dropped down, didn't he? And then he got signed for $1 million. That was his big move. I mean, it's amazing that happened, but you just won't see that often, will you? Because there's so many players going through the system.
And also, I think people are taking less and less risks with players. They want that, as I said before, the finished article. And I just think sometimes scouts are everywhere now. You can't move. Years ago, you'd have a scout coming. It was a big deal.
Sid Benson used to come with his big umbrella.
Of course, Sid. You know, but you knew these scouts, and they'd go round. And now you can turn up at any football on a Saturday or a Sunday, and there'll be 5 or 10 scouts there from different clubs across the Northwest, all trying to get these 2, 3, 4 players that they might see.
Well, they all think they're going to find the next Messi or Ronaldo, don't they? They're trying to find that kid that is so much better than everyone else. But the reality is, that's just not normal.
And the reality is, they're often playing. An average player looks better now because the players around them aren't as good because they've already at the academies.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. The issue is that they get these average kids in, realise they're not as good as when they first see them, because the coaches have a certain number of players they've got to bring into the academy.
Yeah.
And it all gets tracked and it all gets logged and all the data gets put in there. So actually what they're doing is, it's almost like they're protecting themselves. I brought this fella in. I brought this fella in.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest point, Daz. I think it's all a numbers game.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to hit a quota which gets us nowhere. All right, Daz, bring us home on this subject. What are your thoughts generally? What do you think should happen? What are the things that we can do to improve it?
I think academies shouldn't be able to get kids to into their clutches until they get to secondary school. I think academies should be sending coaches out to leagues and affiliate themselves with leagues to then develop all players, so they actually get to spend time with the player, see what his attitude's like, see what the parents are like, see what the whole makeup is, rather than just picking them on 1 or 2 20-minute things they've watched them. Yeah. So for me, we've got an opportunity now, because the way the football season is, we need to change the way we do things. My idea with the 2 referees and the passing would give a focus to coaches, and it would bring about better players and better understanding of the game. Thomas, over to you.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Darren. I'm fully in agreement of the senior school and starting there. I would like to see more kids playing football. I'd like to see all the football pitches filled with teams of, equal ability right across the city, playing on a Saturday and a Sunday. And if that's the case, then more kids enjoying it, more kids are out playing, there's a chance that a couple of kids might make it.
Yeah. So what, just for those who are listening that don't know what senior school is, what they're talking about is 11 years and above.
Yes.
I think so Dan, I think your ideas are much more well thought through than mine and Thomas's are, because you're in coaching, you've been in it for years. I've had a little bit of a taste of it and enjoyed it, but a long way off from what you've been doing. I would say that what we need to do is invest in grassroots football. So we all live in a city where there are 2 football grounds that have got a park between them where football is played. And if you go and spend time in that park, it's an absolute disgrace. There is an opportunity to invest in places like that, get football played, find the next talents that you want, because they're all around, especially in cities like Liverpool. And all you have to do is invest in getting them to play the game, open the game up, make it inclusive, get everyone involved again. And then maybe you do find the next Steven Gerrard or Jamie Carragher. All right, so now we reach the stage where we give the audience what they came for.
We've turned into a warm-up act, by the way.
Yeah, it's a long warm-up though, Dad. So let's get over to Thomas's wall of hate. So Tom, who are you mostly hating this week?
Okay, so this week I'm mostly hating one of the greatest managers of the modern era. He's won leagues, he's won Champions League, he's won domestic leagues with teams such as Porto,
Thomas.
Man United, Chelsea, Real Madrid and Inter Milan. This week, I'm mostly hating Jose Mourinho. I effing hate him. Jose Mourinho, you are an average footballer. You literally should be on this podcast with us too. You jumped on the genius of Bobby Robson because you were a half-decent translator. You learned the beautiful game and then you took it over to Portugal. I could have managed in Portugal. You had Porto. I could have managed Porto to the league title there. They've literally got 7 sheep, a couple of yaks or whatever they're called, and then a couple of footballers. No.
Are you talking about Wales or Portugal?
What about Portugal? What do they call llama things? You were at Chelsea for the first time and you bought every player under the sun. It was like supermarket sweep with Dale Winton. You had all the money in the world to buy all the players. In fact, to stop other teams doing well, you actually bought players that other teams were interested in and shipped them out on loan. What's that all about? I remember you running down the wing at Old Trafford, like 100 miles an hour. You ought to beat Usain Bolt. You're having a laugh. You call yourself the special one. Who calls themselves the special one? You're arrogant. You're a bad loser. Do you remember the goal, Luis Garcia's ghost goal? Yeah, he said it was a goal from over the moon. I was over the moon. And the look on your face, it was like the look when we beat you that my wife gives me when I give her the little knock in bed. Hey, look.
Give her the little knock.
You've been sacked everywhere you've been. You're just useless. But the worst thing that I don't like about you is you are an absolute shithouse. So you're at Barcelona. You cause a massive touchline fight. You poke one of the opposition coaches in the eye. And then you threw your physio or one of your coaches in front of him so he couldn't hit you. You big shithouse. So, for that, Jose Mourinho, you know on my wall of hate.
Yes. Oh, brilliant.
I hate Jose Mourinho.
You'd never have guessed, mate. Oh, my God.
That's another
brilliant.
15 quid side for his therapy. We're making it here. What with our sponsorship deal?
I think we should start a swear jar.
Mate, we'll be millionaires.
That was brilliant.
Oh,
love that. The sheep in Porto got me, though. And the yaks. Where did you get the yaks from?
I forgot what they were called.
Oh my God, that is brilliant.
Where's Porto? I thought it was Portugal.
yeah.
It's suddenly been moved. Oh, Thomas, absolutely brilliant, mate. Well done. Enjoy.
We've had John Terry, Sergio Ramos, and Mourinho so far.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the next one. That's brilliant. I love that.
Hey, he'll go through it though without a keeper.
Yeah. Tell you what, he's been held for that. I reckon that'll carry on as well.
Hey, I'm revolutionising football.
What, just no goalies?
Come on, did you not ever play five-a-side with goalie when Ness?
Yeah, but that's the best. One of the best questions I've had this week is, what's goalie when Ness?
Yeah.
Well, explain it now.
Yeah, I've explained it. Goalie when Ness is goalie when necessary. So basically, no one's in goal until someone shoots it and the person who's closest dives and saves it.
Great.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant.
All right, lads. That was a lot of fun.
I got quite heated at one point.
You did, Daz. You've done that twice now.
Sorry about that. It won't happen again.
You're very passionate about that. Anyway, so for everyone, please like and subscribe. We want to know that you're enjoying what we're doing. And we're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Google Podcasts, and at the website www.threemenandfootball.com.
And certain post offices around Liverpool.
Only for those wanted photos. All right, thanks everyone. Keep giving us your comments and we'll read them out.
Speak to you soon.